Merry Christmas. My name is Brad Scandrett, and I have the privilege to serve as the Young Life Area Director right here in San Diego North. Now, do you remember where you were when COVID shut the world down? Maybe you're like me and you remember exactly where you were when the news broke and the world came to a screeching halt. Now, I remember where I was for a couple reasons. The first one was it was Friday the 13th of March, and that's a weird day, right? And the second reason is I was where I usually am on a Friday morning, walking and praying at one of our local high schools. Now, on that day, I happened to be walking and praying with Rob and Andrea, which are two of our staff here in the area, as well as with one of our local committee members. And we were at Westview High School, a school in our area where we've never had Young Life. And we had just finished up our time together when our phones all buzzed and we read the news that schools were shutting down and life as we know it was going to be drastically changed. Now, like you, Young Life, our world was turned upside down, and we could no longer gather with kids, no longer go to kids, and no longer do the ministry the way that we were used to. And if I'm honest, for the first couple weeks and maybe even the first month, we didn't know what to do. Now, maybe you felt the same way. Lost, your normal taken from you, so many questions with so few answers. Now, in the midst of this time, we knew one thing for sure. If all else fails, pray. Pray. Just like we had been every Friday at a local middle school or high school campus. Walk and pray. And so that's what we did. We continued to walk and pray every Friday at a high school campus, and we even added walking and praying at a middle school campus every Wednesday. And we even invited others to join us, and we walked and we prayed. And you know what? God answered our prayers. In the midst of a pandemic, God answered our prayers. And He's answered many of our prayers since Friday, March 13th. But let me quickly tell you a story of how He answered one prayer in particular. And this just so happens to be one of my favorite COVID stories so far. In February 2020, one of our longtime committee members, Bob, was thinking about John 9:4, which says, "We must work the works of Him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work." And Bob sensed the Lord saying to him, "You're old, but you're not dead yet. I want you to come with me. I want to use you to start Young Life at Westview High School." And as Chuck Reinhold, which is one of Bob's mentors, said, "I'm so glad Young Life didn't stop before they came to my high school." Now in February, Bob reached out to me and he called and he said, "Hey, what do you think about me starting Young Life at Westview High School?" And when he asked, I actually laughed out loud because this was an answer to prayer. We had been walking and praying around Westview High School for the past 2 years that God would bring us a person or persons to help us start Young Life there. And God brought us an awesome leader in this great available man, Bob. Now, since COVID-19 struck, God has opened so many opportunities. And while school sports and classes stopped, Bob applied to serve as a volunteer varsity football coach. He completed all the screening requirements, CPR, and coaching skills courses. And by June, he was hired as a volunteer football coach at Westview. July and August, Bob began to meet boys on the team at weightlifting and gradually learning names and getting to know them. Now, September began 2-day per week on-field practices, and COVID protocols, as you know, requires the boys to be screened before each practice. So Bob volunteered to take their temperature, ask the screening questions every day. So every day, every player on the team has to check in with Bob every day. It's amazing. He knows all 74 boys by name and can even recognize them with their masks on. Fantastic. We went from literally knowing barely any students at Westview High School in March to knowing the names of all 74 guys on the football team. Praise the Lord. Not only that, but we now have another leader who has joined Bob on the team at Westview. This leader, Caleb, works security at the school and even coaches baseball. I absolutely love how God chooses to answer prayers. In the midst of COVID, we are starting a new ministry. God has said yes to our prayers and answered them in miraculous ways, ways we would never have expected. And we are so, so grateful. Now, our goal for 2021 is to continue praying and to continue getting creative in the ways in which we reach out to kids. Now, we've done almost 1,000 deliveries to kids at home this fall. We've had small groups outside, socially distanced with masks on, of course, and we've hosted 3 drive-through clubs where kids had the opportunity to play and have fun, all from the safety of their car. All of this was done through the power of prayer. Thank you so much for joining us and praying for kids in our communities. Thank you for believing with us that God still answers prayers. Thank you for being a generous donor as well. Your generosity has allowed us to have one of the most fruitful falls, a fall none of us ever expected, but your generosity has helped us be with kids. Now, by now, many of you have received our Christmas letter in the mail. In that letter, you will have read 3 powerful stories of life change in a middle school boy, a Capernaum young man, and a high school girl. Thank you so much for helping us write these stories. As you know, Christmas is a time of giving. Many of you have set aside funds this year to help organizations just like ours finish their year well. Our year-end goal is $45,000, and to raise that by December 31st. And any size gift towards that goal is so helpful. Every gift we receive this year-end will allow us to continue serving kids in our communities and will help us tell many stories like the one you heard today in 2021. Thank you so much for listening, and may God bless you this Christmas season.